The question for both of you, 50 first, why this project? Why now?
Well, we waited until after the results of the trial to release the project, but I started like almost 5 months before I was able to find Alex, and finding an Emmy Award-winning showrunner and director is detrimental to the project being really well put together. So, you know, they should expect it to perform like Reggie Jackson's did.
Thank you. Yeah, I think why it's coming out now is we wanted to wait, you know, to get through all of the legal proceedings, the criminal trial, and it spans, it's, you know, four parts, and it spans over 30 years of, you know, pop culture, his life. So it took some time, to say the least.
50 Cent is back at the center of attention, and this time it goes far beyond routine entertainment buzz, as his hard-hitting documentary delivers a wave of startling claims surrounding Diddy that have caught both fans and industry insiders off guard. Pushing the tension even higher, 50 Cent makes it clear that what has been revealed so far barely scratches the surface, hinting that crucial elements were deliberately held back. According to him, if those unreleased details ever surface, they could dramatically rewrite the narrative and send serious ripples across the music world. One thing is undeniable. This chapter is far from closed, and what unfolds next could shift the landscape entirely.
Your favorite villain? I kind of like Diddy.
When people say I'm a troll, I say,
I don't know why you're saying I'm trolling people.
In a recent interview, comedian T.K. Kirkland reignited the conversation around the long-simmering rift between 50 Cent and Diddy by pointing to a move he says was anything but accidental. Kirkland suggests that Diddy's decision to pursue a relationship with someone closely tied to 50 Cent's past was a deliberate power play, not a random choice. He frames it as crossing a silent but universally understood line, one rooted in respect and personal boundaries. With limitless access to fame, fortune, and influence, Diddy had no shortage of paths he could have taken, yet he chose one that struck close to home. According to Kirkland, that decision was intentional, calculated, and only poured more fuel onto a feud that was already simmering beneath the surface.
I just want to say this. People are talking about how, 50's attacking him and he's being petty. Now, keep in mind, out of all the women in the world that Diddy could have gotten with, he chose 50 Cent's baby mother.
It's a lot of variables to this particular question. Because I talk to a lot of people, older, younger, even my daughter, who's 22, she didn't understand it. So people give their opinion based on what they've experienced and their environment, people they've been around. So to the people that understand boundaries and respect, I always tell men you should never date another man's girl if you're not aware of it. If you know it, then it's wrong. But if you're aware of it, it's like basketball players that we talked about this before. Football players who date the same women.
Yeah.
And won't go outside the box.
Yeah, and I've never done that. In my life, I can honestly say at 52 years old, I have never dated.
According to Kirkland, this was never an innocent misstep but a deliberate show of disregard that spoke volumes on its own. The situation forces a larger question into the spotlight. What does it suggest about Diddy's view of loyalty and personal limits? As 50 Cent's documentary keeps pulling back the curtain on what is being framed as a serious breach of trust, each new detail hits harder than the last, leaving audiences increasingly shocked and questioning just how much remains concealed behind the scenes.
Was an ex of a friend of mine.
Right.
Sometimes I found out a girl that I'm messing with that also messed with this other dude that I know in the industry, whatever. That's a little different after the fact. But I would never go into it if that's was his girl.
It's really the wrong thing to do. I've been presented in my lifetime. Women have come to me and they'll say, oh, my ex-husband or my husband that passed. And when I was in my 30s, I leaped and did it because I said, if I died and was in a relationship and my baby mom was fine, ain't nobody gonna think of me. They're gonna date the person. So this is just some real shit. As I sit here today, knowing that there's an ocean full of women.
Billions. There are billions of women.
Billions.
Right. And that's the whole thing about Diddy Diddy's not some nerdy dude who just happened to find some IG model and, oh my God, this is the girl of my dreams. Man, he has access to women all around the planet.
And that's his reputation.
But he went after the baby mother of one of his rivals.
Exactly.
Someone who had been taking shots at him for years.
Absolutely.
On purpose.
And he went after her knowing that they had beef.
Right. And slutted her out.
Just slutted her out.
Having a whole basketball team run a train on her. And
I
just the whole
agree.
thing, right?
Totally agree.
Right.
But his reputation from when he worked at Uptown, I'll be sure's girlfriend.
Oh, Kim Porter.
Right. That's his reputation.
I'll be sure his baby mother.
Baby mama.
Yeah.
Then Eric Serum, his friend, the one that had his baby, Mia. So he's had a reputation of going after people.
Tupac's ex-girlfriend. He got a baby with her too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So my point that I'm making to the men listening, well, if you don't understand this, then you're just poorly educated and don't really have common sense. It's a no-no.
In a revealing interview, Gene Deal steps forward with sharp criticism aimed at the documentary, alleging that his creative input was used without proper acknowledgement and turning the spotlight towards serious questions of ownership and integrity. Deal claims that major ideas driving the project originated from concepts he personally pitched and developed, explaining that he worked closely with the production team and helped influence the documentary's overall direction. According to him, those contributions were later overlooked, leaving his role unrecognized while the project moved forward. These accusations challenge the authenticity of the work and raise pointed questions about who truly shaped the narrative, how original the final product really is, and whether credit was fairly assigned. Given 50 Cent's powerful presence and influence surrounding the documentary, the claims land with added force, intensifying the conversation around authorship, transparency, and accountability behind the scenes.
The documentary had to be downsized. You understand? I don't really believe that, because a documentary is a documentary, and they could have had 45 minutes, they could have had an hour, to each one of those. You understand? They left out certain things. He said they even left out the one about Sarah Chapman. You understand? And for whatever reason, he probably left out a lot of other different stars too. Situations that they could have spoke about. You understand? I have a problem with the documentary, and I'm just gonna let you know that the reason I have a problem with the documentary is that they know that they took my idea. You understand? They know that when I came to them, I laid out what they should do and how the documentary should be. You understand? She could say whatever she want to say. I talked to those producers before I even talked to her. They wanted to know what I had, what I was bringing, my pictures, all that stuff like that. And I told them about me, Tim, and Kirk. You understand what I'm saying? And how it would go. They did the same thing. This ain't the first time they stole from me, man. If you look at the Notorious Big, if you watch the Notorious Big, that part about the shoes, I had that in my book. And I was talking to K.O. Copeland. He was one of the writers of that movie. And I told him about when I let Big use my shoes at Soul Train Award. You had this old flunky ass dude, Mike B, get on Angie Martinez's show and talk about, yo, Big, he wore Mix Max shoes and he went out there and performed. When you go look at the film, when you go look at Big performing that on that show, ain't nothing mixed match about them shoes. There was $800 Maury's, size 14D, Big World 14E. E means that his shoes is a little wider than mine. He struggled, but he put them on and he went out there and performed. Those was my gators.
In a candid exchange, Gene Deal lays out a provocative claim that Diddy has followed a recurring and deeply unsettling pattern of forming relationships with women linked to his rivals, arguing that these choices point to something far more calculated than chance. Deal suggests that from alleged connections tied to Tupac's past to associations involving other well-known adversaries, these relationships appear strategically selected because of who they connect back to, not just who they are. In his view, this pattern raises serious concerns about intent, power, and the use of personal relationships as leverage within broader conflicts. The implication is clear and uncomfortable. These situations may be less about romance and more about influence, narrative control, and quiet dominance. As framed in 50 Cent's documentary, Diddy's personal life and professional rivalries are portrayed not as separate worlds, but as intertwined moves from the same strategic playbook.
You understand? They did a little skit trying to disrespect me in the movie. You understand? And they said something about, oh, we got this shit from Big Sexy. He knew they called me Big Sexy, you understand, because I used to play ball with them at the Reebok on Columbus Avenue on Saturday morning. And on my arm, it had Big Sexy. Right there, Mighty. That was my pen name for Felon Magazine. People didn't notice I used to write for Felon Magazine. You understand? And because I was a parole officer writing for Felon Magazine, I named myself Big Sexy. You understand? So now, they go and steal my ideal and what I was writing in my book on the Notorious. Now they did this on this doc. That's what they do, bruh. They don't care, bruh. They did the same thing on the BMF things to my man who just did a book. His name is Alexander Newell out there in Detroit. They call him KK. Him and the brothers used to run around on the west side in the Brewster Project. They from the Brewster Projects. Him and his brother, what's Alex's brother name? Dangerous. They got him played in the movie as the name Dog in that BMF movie. Alex's brother name is Lawrence. I think it's Lawrence. Dangerous. Wasn't playing. When they got him up in the video, going into the game on the BMF thing and killing somebody in front of everybody in the basketball thing, he was that type of dude. Alex used to come to Harlem to see me. He actually took me to him, my man Kevin Thigpen. We all went to Atlantic City. We seen the show.
Mark Curry shares disturbing recollections that paint a sharper picture of Diddy's alleged need for control, especially in personal dynamics, recalling an incident where he says Diddy aggressively confronted a producer over nothing more than a conversation with Kim Porter. Curry frames the moment as revealing an intense, possessive mindset, one that went far beyond a single outburst. In his account, this behavior reflects a consistent pattern, an individual who tightly manages, monitors, and exerts pressure on those around him, particularly anyone operating within his inner circle, suggesting control wasn't situational, but a defining trait.
We had a time. Alex was the man. You know what I'm saying? So now, they take his story, all the stuff they just switch it around, change it for the BMF thing. That's what they do, bruh. They caught me out there. Am I mad at them? I said, everybody, and you hear a guy, yo, why 50 didn't, fight for you to in the movie and the whole thing. Man, he don't supposed to fuck up his money for me. Why should he mess up his money for me? Nah, that was my fault. I shouldn't have told him shit. Or I should have had them sign something. If you do the documentary in this way, you owe me. Because it was my ideal. They can't tell me they had that ideal because they didn't know they had Tim. They didn't know they had Kirk. You understand what I'm saying? They didn't know that because they came to me first. So that's what they do, bruh. That documentary, and if 50 do another one, and I heard he's gonna put it on YouTube or do whatever he's gonna do, Puff ain't gonna have nothing to do with that. Puff ain't gonna have nothing to do to try to stop that because he can't. Because if he could stop it, it would have been stopped. You know why he can't stop it? Because Puff know people right there at Netflix. Don't think he don't. And I don't know if this guy still worked for them, but he was part of the flavor unit, Shakim. He was part of the flavor unit. He was good friends. He was cool with Puff and them. Flavor unit and them, Queen Latifah and them, they was cool with Puff. If Puff would have sent a cease and desist over there and they could do it and he had the power and they wasn't right, they would have been done it. You see, it's still rolling, right? It's still going on, right? He ain't got that power no more.
Curry makes it clear that this behavior isn't driven by affection but by authority, shifting the focus to a much larger and more unsettling question. Does Diddy's desire to control end with personal relationships, or does it spill into his professional world as well? As presented in 50 Cent's documentary, that same relentless need to dominate appears to stretch far beyond private moments, influencing key decisions and shaping the structure of his business empire. The narrative suggests a pattern where power is not just exercised publicly, but carefully managed behind the scenes, redefining how influence is asserted and maintained at every level.
You carry yourself like a grown man. He doesn't carry himself like a friend, you know?
So you're not surprised when you hear Cassie say that, Diddy, he used to hit her and she had to cover up her bruises with makeup. You're not surprised when you hear that. Because I interviewed Gene Deal, and he wasn't around Bad Boy when Cassie was around, but he told me that, he did the same thing to Kim Porter.
Or you could take it before then, and then you can remember when Misa was dating, Eric Sermon from EPMD? And that was her childhood boyfriend, like coming up. They was the, lovey-dovey couple. And it was back then. He used to, do that with Misa. So, one thing I always say is, as a man and as anyone in a relationship, we often go through these kind of things. So I've seen it in friends. I've seen it in him. I've seen fights. I've seen all kinds. I've seen fights where he have an argument, fight with a female, whatever it may be. I've seen it with my own friends. But sometimes you say, we all go through things, but once you have a sign of doing it over and over and over again, that's when it becomes a problem. You be like, so every relationship that you get in, you're violent in them. So you say, I don't have to wait to see what he would, I was around when Cassie was there. I knew Kim Porter before I knew Puff. I met Misa, but it was a history. When you have a history of the same thing, man, it becomes a problem. Something you do once or twice, you get over, first you're not supposed to put your hands on a woman the way I was raised. And the only person that really put their hands on women really is men who have feminine traits. So, it really takes a coward to put his hands on a woman. So, a man is so strong enough, we can just walk away. You can do, it's so many different things that you can do other than get upset, put your hands on a woman. But that comes from a man who's not quite a grown man. It's still a boy, like a bad boy.
And speaking of Kim Porter, because you knew Kim Porter, is it true that Diddy broke her nose?
Bust her nose, man. But it was all,
Eugene Deal steps forward with serious allegations that challenge the polished image long associated with Diddy's relationship with Kim Porter, claiming the reality behind the scenes was far more turbulent than the public ever realized. He points to a specific incident on a boat in which Kim reportedly fell, an event Deal alleges was not accidental but the result of harm, while emphasizing these claims remain accusations rather than established fact. Even so, the account casts a much darker tone over a relationship that was widely portrayed as glamorous and aspirational. It also raises an uncomfortable question about why such claims were never thoroughly examined and how their absence from public discussion may have influenced perceptions of Diddy over the years. By revisiting these allegations, 50 Cent's documentary brings them back into the spotlight, pushing viewers to reconsider a narrative many assumed was already settled.
Unless they can hide unless she did her book on Google Duo and it's in the clouds and they could get somebody to get it out of there, she ain't got no book. It's just a conspiracy. Kim, it was alleged that she did have a book and that her book was about to come out. And she was talking about all the perils, everything that she went through in the music business and with Diddy. All the men that they slept with together, because there were men that they slept with together. There were swinging times that they slept with together. I don't know, man. How do you put your girl through some shit like that? Or how you look at your girl and knowing that she sexing another dude? What kind of demonic mind you have to be that far gone where that shit don't bother you for somebody that you love? But Kim Book was going to express all that. And I hope she did her book on Google Docs, or she did her book somewhere that is floating in the cloud of the internet that somebody could go get it one day. Cause any picture you take, anything that you write or say, it's in that internet cloud. You just gotta go get it. And one day, somebody gonna go get it. But I'm sure that he probably got hold to those tablets or whatever she had, allegedly, and got rid of them. They swimming with the fishes.
Wow, man. So she was about to expose all that in her book, them sleeping with men together.
She was going to expose everything. I heard it was tell all.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Just curious, right? Did you know that Diddy and Kim had that type of relationship back then in real time?
Yeah. Yep. Because I know somebody personally that lives in Atlanta that was swinging with them, and I would never mention his name because he's a good brother and he knows my family down there. You know, he knows my family down there, and I would never, put his name out there like that. He's been in the music business. He done put a lot of groups, A-listed groups out there, especially A-listed groups from Atlanta. So I would never put his name out there like that. But, I got the key, I got the pass key to everything. But then when, they needed more ice or they needed bottles and stuff like that, when I used to go to the door and I knock on the door and they open the door, and then, my nosy, whoa, you see certain shit. Or they sitting in the jacuzzi together, all of them, nothing on. You see shit like that, bro. It is what it is.
Industry veteran Gene Deal intensifies the scrutiny around Diddy's standing in the music world, asserting that his rise was driven not just by vision and ambition, but by calculated manipulation and exploitation behind the scenes. Deal claims there is a long-running pattern of ideas being taken, from business strategies to creative concepts, without proper recognition, framing it as a system where people were used as tools to reinforce power and maintain control. In his view, the real issue isn't the scale of Diddy's fame, but the methods that helped construct it, and who paid the price along the way. The question he raises is sharp and uncomfortable. How much of that success was built through blurred ethics rather than genuine collaboration? By confronting this narrative head-on, 50 Cent's documentary challenges the legacy itself, pushing audiences to reconsider whether the empire was built with partners, or on their backs.
So I guess they don't consider cases of champagne and everybody having their own bottle and drinking out of their own bottle like it was a 40 ounce. I guess they don't consider that drinking, but I digress.
There was a part where he was going back and forth with Andre Harrell, and he was saying, "I'm gonna be drunk and high by Wednesday." I don't know.
Exactly.
So I'm like, it seemed like the shift happened quickly when it comes to being introduced into this thing, into this industry. So he's technically he might be a victim as well. I don't know.
I've already said that I believe that he was victimized, and I think it happened long before the industry. People really don't want to look closer into his childhood and to what his mama had going on in that house. God knows what he saw and what happened to him in his own mama house. All of those strangers, them up involved, looking around, seeing what was going on. And let's just be clear, it sounds like her house was a house of, professional freak-offs. So who knows what he saw or what could have happened to him while she was busy entertaining people and pouring and getting tips, as she would say, for her after-hour life.
Oh yeah. He was. I'm gonna say he was surprised to hear that.
School bus driver. No, was he surprised or was he like, zip it, you talking too much? Because that's what it looked like to me. It looked like you talking a little bit too much. They don't need to know about that. While she was sitting up there, because I was a bus driver and I was this, and I worked at the after hour.
In a striking and emotionally charged interview, Jaguar Wright levels serious allegations that shift the focus from public success to deeply private concerns, claiming that Diddy's children may have been exposed to environments no child should ever experience. She argues that while the world has long fixated on his power and influence in the music industry, the most alarming stories are the ones she says unfolded out of sight, behind closed doors. Her remarks raise an uncomfortable but unavoidable question about responsibility and parenting, challenging how such situations could be allowed and why these concerns went largely unaddressed for so long. By revisiting these claims, 50 Cent's documentary casts a stark new light on Diddy's private life, forcing the public to reconsider the carefully crafted image of the mogul they believed they knew.